Metro Manila underwater, a city of over 13 million people, now almost unrecognizable beneath a vast, muddy sea. What was once a bustling metropolis has been transformed overnight into a landscape of chaos and uncertainty. Raging flash floods have paralyzed the Philippine capital. Streets that teemed with life are now impassable rivers, trapping thousands of vehicles and leaving countless residents stranded. The city's lifelines, its roads, bridges, and public transport, have all but disappeared beneath the relentless surge. By noon on July 22, 2025, relentless monsoon rains had battered the city for hours, turning entire neighborhoods into islands. Homes are surrounded by swirling water and families peer anxiously from windows hoping for the rain to stop. The downpour shows no sign of letting up, and the water keeps rising. Millions are trapped, watching muddy water rise at terrifying speed. For many, there is nowhere to go. Rooftops and upper floors become the only refuge. The fear is palpable as families huddle together, listening to the roar of the storm and the distant cries for help. The city's familiar bustle is gone, replaced by the roar of floodwaters and desperate cries for help. Sirens wail in the distance, but for many, rescue seems impossibly far away. Debris floats through the streets, a haunting reminder of the lives upended in just a few hours. From Caloocan in the north to Muntinlupa in the south, no corner is spared. The devastation is citywide, with every district facing its own battle against the rising tide. Even areas once thought safe from flooding are now submerged, their residents caught off guard by the sheer scale of the disaster. Cars float like toys in the deep floodwater, while families wait anxiously on rooftops for rescue. Rescue boats, often manned by volunteers, struggle to navigate the new waterways, dodging debris and searching for those still trapped. Every hour brings new stories of survival and heartbreak. Infrastructure has crumbled in mere hours. Highways are impassable, bridges have collapsed, and entire neighborhoods are without power. Communication lines are down, making it nearly impossible for families to check on loved ones or call for help. The city's modern conveniences have vanished, replaced by a desperate fight for survival. The southwest monsoon, or Habagat, arrived with unprecedented fury, overwhelming drainage systems that were never designed for such a deluge. Water surges through the streets, carrying away everything in its path. The city's defenses have been breached, and nature is in full control. Floods reach waist and even neck-deep in places, paralyzing the economic heart of the nation. Business districts stand silent, their glass towers reflected in the floodwaters below. Shops, offices, and markets are shuttered, their owners left to wonder when or if they will reopen. Rescue teams face impossible odds as the human cost mounts. Emergency responders carry children through chest-deep water, while volunteers form human chains to help the elderly and disabled. Every rescue is a race against time as the water continues to rise and the rain refuses to stop. The government scrambles to respond, holding emergency meetings as the crisis unfolds. Relief operations are launched, but the scale of the disaster is overwhelming. With roads blocked and communication down, getting help to those who need it most is a monumental challenge. Meanwhile, the rain keeps falling, adding to the city's misery. For Metro Manila, this is a test of resilience as the world watches and waits. Neighbors help neighbors, sharing food, water, and hope. International aid is pledged, and the global community looks on in concern, sending prayers and support to the millions affected. The fight to stay above water has only just begun. As night falls, exhausted residents and rescue workers continue their battle against the flood. The city holds its breath, hoping for the rain to stop and for the waters to recede. But for now, Metro Manila remains underwater, united in crisis and determined to survive. The disaster began quietly, with rain tapping on rooftops, then escalated fast. Pagasa had warned of heavy rain, but few expected a month's worth in hours. The city's concrete landscape became a basin, channeling water into streets. By mid-morning, gutter-deep floods became waist-deep torrents. Espana Boulevard and EDSA were submerged, trapping thousands in gridlock. Public transport halted, even elevated trains eventually shut down. Drainage and pumping systems were overwhelmed, water pouring into neighborhoods. Low-lying communities near rivers were hit hardest as the Marikina River swelled to dangerous levels. The city held its breath, bracing for disaster as alert levels rose. Manila, the nation's heart, was at the center of the deluge. Mayor Honey Lacuna inspected pumping stations, but the rain was too much. Sampaloc and Espana Boulevard were submerged, isolating the university belt. Calls for rescue flooded the disaster office, especially from the elderly and families. Historic Intramuros and Luneta Park were partially underwater. Emergency teams were stretched thin, prioritizing the most vulnerable. Markets like Divisoria and Quiapo closed, vendors losing millions. Manila's struggle revealed the city's vulnerability to extreme weather. Navotas and Pasay faced a double threat: rain from above, rising sea from below. Navotas's fishing communities were devastated as river and bay overflowed, forcing mass evacuations. Floods reached chest deep, homes and livelihoods washed away. In Pasay, roads near the Mall of Asia and Roxas Boulevard were swamped by both rain and saltwater. The airport was isolated, flights disrupted, thousands stranded. Disaster teams raced to evacuate residents from neck-deep floods. Coastal geography left these cities exceptionally vulnerable. Quezon City, Metro Manila's largest, faced widespread but uneven flooding. Major roads like Quezon and Commonwealth Avenues became impassable. Low-lying areas near creeks like Talayan and Tatalan were inundated within an hour. Rescue teams used boats and trucks to evacuate families. Commercial districts shut down, traffic snarled citywide. The city's vastness made coordination difficult, but CCTVs helped direct resources. Flooding exposed the consequences of rapid urbanization and clogged waterways. Emergency responders braced for a long night. As floodwaters rose, a massive government response began, a race against time. President Marcos Jr. ordered all agencies to deploy assets for rescue and flood control. Local leaders like Mayors Lacuna and Belmonte led from the front lines. MMDA managed traffic and sent flood teams with portable pumps. City Droarmos became heroes, rescuing the most vulnerable in perilous conditions. The scale of need far exceeded available teams and equipment. Flooded roads and downed communications hampered efforts. Pumping stations and emergency actions were crucial, but reactive. The crisis underscored the urgent need for long-term flood solutions. Pagasa scientists had tracked the threat for days, warning of a perfect storm. Rainfall warnings escalated from yellow to red as the deluge intensified. A red warning meant life-threatening rain and severe flooding. Residents were told to act immediately. Some areas saw over 50 mm of rain in an hour, overwhelming any drainage system. The science was clear. The city was drowning in more water than it could handle. Warnings signaled rivers would overflow, and landslides could occur. Pagas's updates were a lifeline for the public and responders. The data drove life-or-death decisions on the ground. Amid the chaos and uncertainty brought by the relentless flooding, disaster officials urgently pleaded for public cooperation. Their voices, broadcast over radios and television, echoed through the city, calling for calm and discipline. As the situation grew more dangerous by the hour, the message was clear: everyone's actions could make a difference in saving lives. The Manila Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office, or DRRMO, issued a stern advisory: stay home if you can, seek higher ground if you're in a low-lying area, and above all, never attempt to wade through floodwaters. The risk of being swept away or injured was simply too high. Officials also reminded the public to listen for updates and follow instructions from authorities, as conditions could change rapidly. In Quezon City, officials highlighted the hidden dangers lurking beneath the murky water: open manholes, sharp debris, overflowing sewage, and even live electrical wires. These hazards could turn a simple walk into a life-threatening ordeal. Emergency workers worked tirelessly to mark danger zones and set up barriers, but they warned that not all risks could be seen or avoided. Despite repeated warnings, some children were seen playing in the floodwater, unaware of the grave risks they faced. Officials and community leaders urged parents to keep children indoors, emphasizing that contaminated water could cause serious illness or injury. The safety of the youngest residents became a top priority as the flood persisted. Residents were strongly advised to turn off the main power switch and unplug all electrical appliances if water began to enter their homes. This simple action could prevent fires, electrocution, and further tragedy. Neighbors were encouraged to check on each other, especially the elderly and those living alone, to ensure everyone's safety. The Department of Health issued a special warning about diseases like leptospirosis, which can be contracted from contaminated floodwater. Health workers distributed information leaflets and urged anyone exposed to seek medical attention immediately. Mobile clinics were set up in evacuation centers to provide free checkups and medicine, aiming to prevent an outbreak of illness in the aftermath of the flood. The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, or MMDA, advised motorists to avoid flooded roads entirely. Those who found themselves stranded were told to remain inside their vehicles unless it was absolutely unsafe to do so. Traffic enforcers and police worked around the clock to redirect vehicles and keep major routes clear for emergency responders. All these warnings and advisories were issued with one goal in mind: to prevent further tragedy. The cooperation of every resident, driver, and community member was essential to keep the number of casualties as low as possible. Volunteers and rescue teams depended on the public's discipline to carry out their work efficiently. Again and again, officials stressed that public cooperation was vital. Following instructions, staying informed, and helping one another could mean the difference between life and death, not just for individuals, but for entire communities. Every decision made during a disaster mattered. Whether it was choosing to evacuate early, turning off the power, or simply staying put, these choices affected not only the safety of individuals and families, but also the well-being of rescuers risking their lives to help. The effectiveness of the entire emergency response depended on people heeding these warnings. When residents listened and acted quickly, rescue operations could proceed smoothly and more lives could be saved. In a disaster of this scale, caution was not just a recommendation, it was a matter of survival. By working together, staying alert, and following official guidance, the community could weather the storm and emerge stronger on the other side. As night fell on July 22nd, a heavy sense of dread filled the air. The relentless rain showed no sign of stopping, and floodwaters continued to rise, inch by inch, swallowing streets and creeping into homes. The city, already battered by hours of downpour, braced itself for what felt like an endless assault from the skies. People peered anxiously from their windows, watching as the water levels climbed higher, wondering how much more their neighborhoods could endure. Suddenly, power outages plunged entire districts into darkness. The familiar glow of streetlights vanished, replaced by the eerie flicker of emergency vehicle lights and the occasional beam of a flashlight reflecting off the murky floodwater. In the pitch-black night, the city's usual energy was replaced by an uneasy silence, broken only by the sound of rain and distant sirens. The government moved quickly, urging residents to stay vigilant, conserve precious resources, and listen closely for official updates. Emergency alerts crackled over radios and phones as officials pleaded for calm and cooperation. Families huddled together, clinging to every bit of information, hoping for reassurance that help was on the way. Evacuation centers rapidly filled with families seeking refuge from the rising waters. School gyms and community halls became makeshift shelters, crowded with people clutching bags of belongings. Volunteers worked tirelessly, distributing food, water, and blankets, while officials pleaded for patience and unity in the face of adversity. At the Pagasa Weather Monitoring Center, meteorologists tracked the storm's every move. Their warnings were clear. The monsoon would continue for another 24 to 48 hours, bringing more rain and the threat of even worse flooding. News broadcasts flashed urgent updates, and the city held its breath, waiting for any sign of relief. As if the situation weren't dire enough, a new low-pressure area loomed on the horizon, threatening to unleash even more storms in the coming days. Dark clouds gathered over the Manila skyline, casting a shadow of uncertainty over the city's future. With little choice but to wait, the city endured a long, wet night. Streets once bustling with life were now empty and rain-soaked, while families waited in poorly lit shelters hoping the worst was over. The hours dragged on, each minute filled with worry and exhaustion. When dawn finally broke, the true cost of the disaster began to emerge. Daylight revealed the extent of the flood damage, homes submerged, streets transformed into rivers, and neighborhoods left in ruins. Residents stepped outside, surveying the destruction with heavy hearts, knowing the road to recovery would be long. From above, Metro Manila looked unrecognizable. Major intersections were underwater and city landmarks stood surrounded by floodwater. The city, so vibrant and resilient, was humbled, brought to its knees by the sheer force of nature. Yet even in the darkest moments, the people of Manila found strength and unity. Families and neighbors gathered to pray, lighting candles and holding hands, hoping for a new day. United in hardship, the city prayed for morning, determined to face whatever came next, together.